Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk Whiskey. I'm Nick here with you as always, and thanks for joining us for episode number 114. As you may have known by looking at the date of this video, this is going to be our last review of 2018. It's been a great year. There's been a lot of good whiskeys to be had, and I hope that you and your family and friends have enjoyed some good whiskeys as well, and some good times behind those whiskeys as well. So today, as I promised last time, we have something special for you. Coming back around to the Irish whiskey sector of the world, and basically it's one of my favorites. Irish whiskey is just so nuanced, and the different styles between, the blends that are out there and the single malts, and then the single pot stills, which are some of the most intriguing whiskeys to me. So I tend to always come back to the Irish whiskeys, more habit than not, even though I try to rotate out. But anyway, you don't have to adjust your camera. You don't have to look at the title for a second or third time, but you've got it right. This is the brand new Teeling single pot still Irish whiskey that was just released this year. And actually, this was bottled in October of this year, 2018. So we've got something special for you. I don't know if anybody else has done a review on this yet, but if not, we'll be the first gladly. So obviously, single pot still Irish whiskey. As I'm pouring this, tell you a little bit about it. So it's a mixture of 50% malted barley and 50% unmalted barley, sort of the traditional way that Irish whiskey was made, especially 19th century, in sort of the big boom of Irish whiskey. Now we're starting to see that resurgence again. In the 20th century, it sort of had its lull, and certainly had, a little bit of a hibernation period, if you will, for a great many of years, which closed a lot of distilleries that were in Ireland and Dublin in particular. So Teeling, if you don't know, is one of the first distilleries in city of Dublin to open in over 125 years, let alone, make something on the market that, is a single pot still Irish whiskey. But now if you look at Dublin in particular, not just Dublin, but Ireland as a whole, you'll see a massive explosion of new ventures and distilleries that are, aging some of their first product. They're sourcing some of their other stuff right now just to get something out there on the market and build revenue. But you see this huge emergence of Irish whiskey. You got the Irish Whiskey Magazine, I'll just give a plug out there for, which is just a beautiful, it's going to be an amazing time capsule, really, of this resurgence of Irish whiskey. So definitely check that out. If you're really interested into Irish whiskey, like I am, join the Irish Whiskey Club on Facebook. I'm one of the admins on there and founded it. We started out with, a couple dozen people for a few weeks and months, and then now it's like close to 3,000 people. So a lot of people are enjoying this. A lot of people are wanting to learn more about it. So if you're one of those people, definitely join. So anyway, Teeling does things a little bit different. They follow the mainstream. They don't follow the 40% ABV, and that's good enough. This is bottled at 46% ABV. It is non-chill filtered. How do we know? Well, for one thing, if we weren't too good at reading things like bottles and packaging, you can just look at the color of this whiskey, and it's just absolutely just beautiful, like almost like white grape juice, really. It's super pale, just a hint, really, of gold and amber on there, but it's like an early morning sunrise there over the hills. Just beautiful color. But if you did read, you'd see you got the non-chill under filtration on the bottle, also on the little tin here. So we've got that going for us. We got the bottle, I already said, 2018, so in October. But I also love just Teeling's packaging in general, and also their marketing, because they're not trying to pull any punches. They're not making any claims that are, not based in historical fact or, accuracy. So one of the things I love is just is the black bottle. You can't really see the contents inside. right? Because a lot of people, sort of, it's a lot of the older generation, and some people who are a little bit less educated, not to knock them at all, but color in the whiskey for a lot of people means quality, and that's not always the case. I've talked about this multiple times, but again, it's not always the case. So I like the fact that it's a darker bottle, sort of hints at masking the the unchill filtered and the no caramel coloring in it, right? Because if there were caramel colorant in it, then you would see more of these coppery, amber, reddish tones in there that a lot of whiskeys have, which really, in my opinion, detract from the whiskey itself. But I love that Teeling does that. Same with Connemara's expressions do that, and Ardbeg, obviously not a Irish whiskey, but one of my favorite scotches. And they also have like the darker bottle in the green, so that's pretty noticeable. So anyway, we don't get too much information on the actual maturation of this whiskey and what types of casks that it was aged in, but we do know from looking at their website that it is a mixture of virgin American oak, ex-bourbon, and ex-wine cask, not more specific than that, but you can tell that they've been, really crafting this whiskey and just getting it to the point where they wanted it to be, rather than just like, throw it in a barrel and try to get it out, in 3 years as soon as possible. So there you go. Let's go in for the nose. This thing has an amazing and also very unexpected nose to it. So I was thinking, single pot still, I sort of know what I'm getting into, having, nosed and taste a lot of other single pot stills that are out there, but I was totally not prepared for what I was getting on the nose of this. Not that it's bad in any way, don't get me wrong, but it's just completely different than what I'm traditionally used to. I get this type of nose in some Ardbeg expressions, like at cask strength. But what I'm getting is like peaches, a little bit of grapefruit, overly ripe grapes. So it's like astringent wine sort of notes that are coming in there. But real fruity in the sense of these citrus fruits. Nothing like, not like apple or anything like that, but more like I said, with the grapefruit and also a little bit of pear. And it's just a really, really interesting nose. I did not expect that to come off on the nose. So let's go in for the taste. This is one of those whiskeys that you can just sit there and swirl it around in your mouth for like minutes upon minutes and endlessly and not lose flavor, but be able to pick up more and more. The first thing that I'm getting on this is like, I remember my parents always used to at least like once a week make like ham with grilled pineapple on the top, or grilled ham with pineapple on top, and just this beautiful sort of astringent type of note, but also with the single pot still, just the mouthfeel in general is this really heavy, oily, really like thick type of mouthfeel that's on there, which just gives me sort of flashbacks to my childhood of that dish in particular. Some of the other things that I'm getting is like toasted caramel note sort of lines the outside of the mouth, which is really interesting. You got this like really prickly peppercorn. If you think of like getting a little thing of pepper that you have to, you crack it yourself over whatever you're eating. It's got that sort of taste in it. And certainly with the aroma that comes off as you're tasting it, it's sort of got that fresh, cracked peppercorn taste and experience, if you will, to it. But also, there's like this hint of like malted barley, fresh baked bread, vanilla, and I'm talking about like a malt, like milkshake vanilla. It's just no imitation vanilla. This is like legit vanilla note. definitely one of the more interesting Irish whiskeys, definitely, that I've had in a long time. The interesting thing about this rather, is on the finish, it's not quick. It doesn't just fade away real quickly, but it evolves further than what you get on the nose and on the taste. So I'm getting like graham cracker crumbs, more vanilla, so I guess a little bit is what I get on the taste, but also like this maple syrup, sugary, brown sugary note. It's just really interesting. It's almost like a French toast kind of finish to it, but it's not westy, sort of wet. You gotta like really pick at it to get that mouthfeel of the aftertaste in it, because it's dry. It's almost like prickly, right? Again, it goes with this mouthfeel of like oily, and a lot of single pot still Irish whiskeys are that you almost have to like chew at it, which is really interesting, and I love that in a whiskey. Again, something you can just sit here and sip for hours. You know, I got three or four things in this shipment that I got of these Irish whiskeys. You know, just planning on making this purchase once I knew they were available. Just like the red spot. So I didn't get to. I'm hoping, by the time I very slowly work at this bottle, that eventually it's going to be in the States pretty popularly, and I'm sure it's going to take off with a lot of the Irish whiskey drinkers out there, and hopefully bring some new people to the fore, and hopefully this whiskey will make some people want to go out and get it if they can. But that's why I didn't get a second bottle, is because I'm hoping that it becomes something more widely available. At least I know it's not going to be in like the store down the road from me, just because where I am, but hopefully that it's relatively easy to get another bottle of this. So the first batch, they did a run of these and auctioned them off, and just got absolutely astronomical prices at auction. I don't even remember what the first bottle went for, but I think it hit a record of like the highest auction price on a new whiskey, which is just phenomenal. So take one more pass at it before I let you guys go. See, the one thing that differentiates myself and other whiskey reviewers out there, or from most out there, is that when I'm doing a whiskey review, I traditionally, unless I've had it before, like this whiskey, I will take just a first pass at it, just to give me an idea of where things are going. But I do that pretty immediately before the review even starts. So it's not like I don't write down notes. I'm not looking at a piece of paper where I've written all these, colorful, wonderful describers down. I'm just picking up what I get when I drink it. But the other thing that goes along with that is that that's only the first or second, pour that I've made out of this bottle. You'd be really surprised, and you probably know already, is that once you start working your way down the bottle, you let it open up, you're pulling the cork off, pouring some, that, lets some oxygen in, you cork back up. That's going to change the whiskey. It's just like adding a couple drops of water in it. It's going to change time, water, oxygen. All these things are going to change, the experience that you get. So the other thing that goes along with that, and what I was originally trying to get to, is that when I'm tasting the whiskey sort of on the review, I don't typically have the time to just sit there and have like complete silence of me just like sipping the whiskey, then swishing it around in my mouth for like 2 minutes. Because typically I might do that if I were just like hanging out, just experiencing the whiskey, sort of just having a nice, relaxing, peaceful environment around me and just really taking in all the nuance, which is what I suggest you go and do. Don't drink it just, to get it down and say, pick a couple things. But you'd be surprised, if you let it coat every, taste bud in your mouth and really just sort of pick apart, you'll get a little bit better with, tasting things and that sort of thing. So anyway, that's not all that this has to offer, nor any whiskey that I've reviewed before. If you give it time, water, a little bit of air to breathe, right, those things are going to change. And you may just find out that you love this whiskey, but you need a couple drops of water in it. And that's your perfect version of this whiskey. You might also find that some other whiskey, needs a couple, big ice cubes in it or something like that to enjoy it. So again, that's sort of just my parting words of wisdom for 2018. I hope it's been a great year. I really do. I look forward to the upcoming year. I'm really going to try to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's going to be a hard push, but I've done it naturally up to this point, and so I'm just hoping that we can go gung-ho and get to that 1,000 by the time I'm doing this review for you a year from now. So with that, if you're going to drink, as always, drink responsibly. Have a great new year, and we'll see you next time.